Welcome to the Real Conversation Show. My name's Christopher Robinson. We have
Daniela.
And Jasmine.
Ken.
So today we're going to talk about a topic that was the lady's suggestion. So we're going to talk about the role reversal in the black community and the difference between where we are now and the relationship between black men and women the way it used to be. So Daniela, this was your suggestion for us to talk about. So what makes it such a big issue that you definitely wanted to talk about it?
It's a big issue because we need to put an end to it. And in order to put an end to it, we have to talk about how it began and what keeps it going. So, Jazz, do you want to add anything? Because I know you and I both feel very passionate about this one.
Most definitely. Role reversal is definitely an issue in the minority community as far as the man taking the role of the woman and the woman taking the role of the man. I think that's a major problem.
Okay, so let's start by defining the roles. Mm-hmm. What do you see as the roles previously being defined as? Mm-hmm. And what do you see them as being defined as now?
Okay.
Previously, like if you go back to, even when times were hard for, black people during, say, segregation time, that era, the black man still would go out and work. Primarily the mom stayed home and, kept the house and the kids. And he worked like his fingers to the bone to pay for the house and put food on the table and do everything that he needed to do. Whereas today, you see that being the woman. And the man, he might not even be in the home. But if he is in the home, he's probably playing video games. Not all men. We're talking about some. We're only talking about this group, not all black men.
Right.
Gotta clarify that.
Yeah.
People.
Because playing PlayStation is bullshit. If you really talk about what most people do.
Yes.
So what do you see it as?
Well, previously I see it as Daniela, to add to what she said, the man being in his natural state, taking care of the house, taking care of the kids, making sure everything is in order. He brings home the food and the woman prepares it, make sure everybody eats. And it's like now the woman has to bring home the food, cook it, feed the kids, and while he's most of the time just laying on the couch.
If he's there.
But see, okay.
If he's there.
Two things just to be devil's advocate. Number one is the two income household, right? Mm-hmm. Is a standard in America now, simply because the way that our economic structure works, a single income doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So are you talking specifically about woman works, man does not?
No, absolutely not.
No.
I don't see a problem with a woman working. Like me, I can't be a stay-at-home mom. Mm-hmm. Like, my mind is set on, go. Like, we got to get this money. Mm-hmm. You going to go get this money, and I'm going to go get this money. Mm-hmm. And we going to meet in the middle, and we going to make sure these kids have everything that they need. I don't want to stay at home. Mm-hmm. But I don't want a man that wants to stay at home either.
Okay, so you're talking specifically about men who stay at home.
I'm not talking about the men that stay at home. I'm talking about the men who don't feel like they have to work to help provide for their families. Because some people have different dynamics. Like maybe the mom works so the dad can stay home and keep daycare and keep the daycare costs down and maybe go to school.
Right.
I'm talking to and about the men that don't contribute anything
at all
and don't want to.
Okay, so now I have an argument.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Because I think that specific scenario where the men don't make any contribution and they're at home sitting at the house, right? Number one, to me that appears like an extreme scenario. Right?
Really?
Yeah. Because in my circle, in my environment, I don't know anybody that's doing that, right?
Okay.
And I used to have a friend years ago who he used to sit at home and he actually had a degree in graphic design. Mm-hmm. But what he figured out was that if he did not marry the mother of his children and he put his address as a separate address, she could file for her taxes.
Yep.
Exactly.
I knew exactly where he's going.
She could file for his taxes as if she's single with 2 children.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And if you do the math, they would get so much money back on their taxes and so much assistance from the government.
Married.
Exactly.
But
so
that's different.
if he had a job making $30,000 a year, by the time you took out the expenses of driving to that job and doing all that stuff, it came out to being almost the exact amount of money. So he chose to stay home and do absolutely nothing and was a complete bum. Didn't even work under the table to bring home a little bit extra, did nothing. And that's one extreme example, right? But outside of that, I really don't see that happening that
So
much.
where do you think the whole joke that people say, oh, or the memes when you see people say he dropped her off in her car and didn't bring gas or brought it back with
No,
no
I've
gas.
seen that. Like, I've seen that kind of
It's
thing.
real.
But like, once you get to that extreme, I'm sorry that if you allow that around you, that's on you.
That's your
But it
self-esteem.
Like
happens, and that's
Most
I feel
definitely.
it's a self-esteem too. But I also feel we can attribute that to this whole independent thing. And if you want to take it even further back, that independent era thing came when it was keep the streets safe and all this. Taking the crack off the streets when they did the sweep and locked up all the black men. Then they replaced the black man with the assistants, public assistants. So now, the government's your dad. So that made the black woman back then feel empowered and I'm independent and I can do it. But you're not independent because you're dependent upon the government to
Most
pay
definitely.
that half.
So, like,
Independent.
do you know other men that sit at home and play PlayStation? Like, I really don't.
I know of a select few.
They play the Xbox too?
Yeah. I don't know what they play because I'm working. So
And I'm not even talking about the men that didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good. You're
Okay.
good.
Not just the ones that sit at home. I'm talking about the ones outside of the home too that make kids and just leave, never to come back,
Yes.
never to contribute. They can be outside selling all these drugs, making all this money, but still you won't contribute anything to your kids.
Okay. I'll let you go first. I'm going to let you go first.
I will say this. I feel our sisters do not realize how much power they have. They have the power to motivate a man to want to better himself,
Pastor.
or have the power to, pick their stuff up and go.
Right.
True.
You know what I'm saying? And invest their time with a man who's worthy.
Most definitely.
But many of us suffer from low self-esteem.
Most definitely.
For many different reasons.
As Cat Williams says, it's called self.
Yes,
Esteem.
Yes.
it is.
So,
but
well, hold on. All right. So here's my issue. When it comes to, because I do think that as a whole, black men in the United States, there's a deficiency in taking responsibility and ownership and being a father, right?
yes,
However, number one, the issue is nowhere near as big as people make it seem because it's convenient to make black men look terrible on television when they pull that
Yes.
stuff out.
Right.
Statistically speaking, all right, let me make sure I don't get this wrong. So 90%, we talked about that, 90% of black women are married to black men. And it's something like 83% of black men are married to black women. So there's households are there,
Right.
right?
Right.
We just don't see
We just don't
that.
see them. Of course.
When you get to the point of what you're saying is like this person's selling all kinds of drugs and doing all this other stuff, right? I think one thing that we have to do as a community is to raise our daughters to understand
yes,
that your ability to create life
Most definitely.
is the greatest gift across the board,
and very important.
right? And the gravity of that responsibility, I think we have to stop putting our daughters in a position to learn that lesson the hard way.
Most
Yes.
definitely.
Because like all of that, like you're letting somebody take your car and
happens.
bring it back with no gas, like
You're allowed.
you're
While
the stupid person.
While you're at
And
work,
then
like
that
you're the
all
one
day.
making the
But
dumb
then
decision.
that
Like I said,
goes
you have
back
the power.
to
Yeah.
most
The woman
definitely.
has the power.
You
To
have,
him,
but that goes back to her. Her self-esteem come from not having a father.
Yes.
9 times out of 10, she didn't have one. Because my thing is, if she never had a man there to validate her beauty, you know what I mean? She's going to cling to anybody that does, whether he's a bum, whether
Exactly.
he's
Showing her
whatever.
attention.
You know, as long as he tell her, you're pretty and I love you, she probably don't even care what he got because she going to work every day making her own money so
Just
she
to say
don't
I'm
need
her boyfriend
money.
or my man.
Right.
Like a piece. Some
Somebody's
people
there
say
with her.
they'd rather have a piece of man than no man. Like, because some of people feel made whole if they have a man.
Right.